Okay, guys, we're at our third and final part of A Good Man is Hard to Find. At this point, we know that Bailey and his family were in an accident. Grandmother made a mistake. And then all of a sudden, the cat that she wasn't supposed to bring along popped out, jumped on Bailey's shoulder. They had a car accident, and lo and behold, who are the individuals that show up? The Misfit and his gang. So we'll start right here. He put on his black hat and looked up suddenly and then away deep into the woods as if he were embarrassed again. "I'm sorry I don't have on a shirt before you ladies," he said, hunching his shoulder slightly. "We buried our clothes that we had on when we escaped, and we're just making do until we can get better. We borrowed these from some folks we met," he explained.
"That's perfectly all right," the grandmother said. "Maybe Bailey has an extra shirt in his suitcase."
"I'll look and see directly," the Misfit said.
"Where are they taking him?" the children's mother screamed.
"See, Daddy was a card himself," the Misfit said. "You couldn't put anything over him. He never got in trouble with the authorities, though, just had the knack of handling them."
"You could be honest, too, if you'd only try," said the grandmother. "Think how wonderful it will be to settle down and live in a comfortable life and not have to think about somebody chasing you all the time."
The Misfit kept scratching in the ground with the butt of his gun as if he were thinking about it. "Yes, somebody is always after you," he murmured. The grandmother noticed how thin his shoulder blades were just behind his hat, because she was standing up looking down on him.
"Do you ever pray?" she asked.
He shook his head. All she saw was the black hat wiggle between his shoulder blades. "No," he said. There was a pistol shot from the woods, followed closely by another, and then silence. The old lady's head jerked around. She could hear the wind move through the treetops like a long, satisfied insuck of breath.
"Bailey boy," she called.
"I was a gospel singer for a while," the Misfit said. "I had been most everything. Been in armed service, both land and sea, at home and abroad. Been twice married. Been an undertaker. Been with the railroads. Plowed Mother Earth. Been in a tornado. Seen a man burnt alive once." And he looked up at the children's mother and the little girl who were sitting close together, their faces white and their eyes glassy. "I even seen a woman flogged," he said.
Pray, the grandmother began. Pray.
"I never was a bad boy that I remember of," the Misfit said in an almost dreamy voice. "But somewheres along the line I done something wrong and got sent to the penitentiary. I was buried alive." And he looked up and held her attention to him by a steady stare.
"That's when you should have started to pray," she said. "What did you do to get sent to the penitentiary that first time?"
"Turn to the right, it was a wall," the Misfit said, looking up again at the cloudless sky. "Turn to the left, it was a wall. Look up, it was a ceiling. Look down, it was a floor. I forget what I done, lady. I sat there trying to remember what it was I done, and I ain't recalled it to this day. Once in a while I would think it was coming to me, but it never come."
"Maybe they put you in by mistake," the old lady said vaguely.
"No," he said, "it wasn't no mistake. They had the papers on me."
"You must have stolen something," she said.
The Misfit sneered slightly. "Nobody had nothing I wanted," he said. "It was a head doctor at the penitentiary said what I had done was kill my daddy, but I've known that for a lie. My daddy died in 1919 of the epidemic flu, and I never had a thing to do with it. He was buried in the Mount Hopewell Baptist churchyard, and you can go there and see for yourself."
"If you would pray," the old lady said, "Jesus would help you."
"That's right," the Misfit said.
"Well, then why don't you pray?" she asked, trembling with a delight suddenly.
"I don't want no help," he said. "I'm doing all right by myself." Bobby Lee and Hiram came ambling back from the woods. Bobby Lee was dragging a yellow shirt with bright blue parrots in it. "Throw me that shirt, Bobby Lee," the misfit said. The shirt came flying at him and landed on his shoulder, and he put it on. The grandmother couldn't name what the shirt reminded her of. "No, lady," the misfit said while he was buttoning it up. "I found out the crime don't matter. You can do one thing or you can do another thing. Kill a man or take a tire off his car, because sooner or later you're going to forget what it was you done and just be punished for it." The children's mother had begun to make heaving noises, but she couldn't get her breath. "Lady," he asked, "would you and that little girl like to step off yonder with Bobby Lee and Hiram and join your husband?" "Yes, thank you," the mother said faintly. Her left arm dangled helplessly, and she was holding the baby who had gone to sleep in the other. "Help that lady up, Hiram," the misfit said as she struggled to climb out of the ditch. "And Bobby Lee, you hold on to that little girl's hand." "I don't want to hold hands with him," June Star said. "He reminds me of a pig." The fat boy blushed and laughed and caught her by the arm and pulled her off into the woods after Hiram and her mother. Alone with the misfit, the grandmother found that she had lost her voice. There was not a cloud in the sky nor any sun. There was nothing around her but woods. She wanted to tell him that he must pray. She opened and closed her mouth several times before anything came out. Finally, she found herself saying, "Jesus, Jesus," meaning Jesus will help you, but the way she was saying it, it sounded as if she might be cursing. "Yes'm," the misfit said as if he agreed. "Jesus shown everything off balance. It was the same case with him as with me, except he hadn't committed any crime. And they could prove I had committed one because they had the papers on me, of course," he said. "They never shown me my papers. That's why I signed myself now. I said long ago, you get you a signature and sign everything you do and keep a copy of it. Then you'll know what you done, and you can hold up the crime to the punishment and see do they match in the end. You'll have something to prove you ain't been treated right. I call myself the misfit," he said, "because I can't make what all I done wrong fit what all I gone through in punishment." There was a piercing scream from the woods, followed closely by a pistol report. "Does it seem right to you, lady, that one is punished a heap and another ain't punished at all?" "Jesus," the old lady cried, "you've got good blood. I know you wouldn't shoot a lady. I know you come from nice people. Pray, Jesus, you ought not to shoot a lady. I'll give you all the money I've got." "Lady," the misfit said, looking beyond her far into the woods, "there never was a body that give the undertaker a tip." There were 2 more pistol reports, and the grandmother raised her head like a parched old turkey hen crying for water and called, "Bailey boy, Bailey boy," as if her heart would break. "Jesus was the only one that ever raised the dead," the misfit continued, "and he shouldn't have done it. He's shown everything off balance. If he did what he said, then it's nothing for you to do but throw away everything and follow him. And if he didn't, then it's nothing for you to do but enjoy the few minutes you got left the best way you can, by killing somebody or burning down his house or doing some other meanness to him. No pleasure but meanness," he said, and his voice had become almost a snarl. "Maybe he didn't raise from the dead," the old lady mumbled, not knowing what she was saying and feeling so dizzy that she sank down into the ditch, with her legs twisted underneath. "I wasn't there, so I can't say he didn't," the misfit said. "I wished I had been there," he said, hitting the ground with his fist. "It ain't right. I wasn't there because if I had been there, I would have known. Listen, lady," he said in a high voice, "if I had been there, I would have known, and I wouldn't be like I am now." His voice seemed about to crack, and the grandmother's head cleared for an instant.
She saw the man's face twisted close to her own as if he were going to cry, and she murmured, "Why, you're one of my babies. You're one of my own children." She reached out and touched him on the shoulder. The misfit sprang back as if a snake had bitten him and shot her 3 times through the chest. And then he put his gun down on the ground and took off his glasses and began to clean them. Hiram and Bobby Lee returned from the woods and stood over the ditch, looking down at the grandmother, who half sat, half lay in a puddle of blood with her legs crossed, under her like a child's, and her face smiling up at the cloudless sky. Without his glasses, the misfit's eyes were red-rimmed and pale and defenseless looking. "Take her off and throw her where you've shown the others," he said, picking up the cat that was rubbing itself against his leg. "Well, she was a talker, wasn't she?" Bobby Lee said, sliding down the ditch with a yodel. "She would have been a good woman," the misfit said, "if it had been somebody there to shoot her every minute of her life." "Some fun," Bobby Lee said. "Shut up, Bobby Lee," the misfit said. "It's no real pleasure in life." And that is the end of A Good Man Is Hard to Find. Pretty grotesque, pretty intense. That is a lot what Flannery O'Connor writes. So I would like for you to make sure that you answer both of these questions down here. Write a summary. You can write a summary of fiction. Try that who, what, where, when, and why, how strategy. And then I want you guys to try to figure out, what is the theme of the story? What does the author want you guys to know? What's the message that is trying to be portrayed in this story? Think about some of those questions that we reviewed today in class to help you figure out that story. Turn this in tonight, and I will see you guys tomorrow.